Hi students, welcome. In this video we will be learning going concern in review and reporting. But before that, we have already heard going concern in our PUC itself, where the concepts, accounting concepts. So yes, so going concern concept, first we have to revise it, then we can understand what and all you are going to learn in audit. So going concern concept is the concept of going concern assumes that a business firm would continue to carry out its operation indefinitely. That means business firm will run for a long period. So the business is concerned for its going as well as growing. So that is what going concept. ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿ ಲಾಂಗ್ ರನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದೇ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಟರ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವ? ನೋ. ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಲಾಂಗ್ ಟರ್ಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್, ಸೊ ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೇ ಒಂದು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಶುರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಅ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ದಟ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ವಿತೌಟ್ ದ ಥ್ರೆಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡೇಷನ್. ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಟ್ರೇಡಿಂಗ್ನ ಸೀಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಕಂಪನಿ ಜೊತೆ ಮರ್ಜ್ ಆಗೋದಿರ್ಬೋದು. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಸಮ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಥ್ರೆಟ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದೀಸ್, ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ನಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ನಾವು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಅಂಥ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್. So going concern in auditing says a going concern is a business that functions without the threat of liquidation for the foreseeable future, indefinite period, usually regarded as at least within 12 months. So at least 1 year ಆದರೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿ ಮುಚ್ಚಲ್ಲ, ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡೇಟ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಈ ಒಂದು ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ನಡೆಯುವಂತಹ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್. ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಥ್ರೆಡ್ಸ್ ಏನು ಮತ್ತು ಆಡಿಟರ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್ಸ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಏನು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರುವಂಥ ಟಾಪಿಕ್. ಸೊ ವಿಲ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಅವರ್ discussions about it. So it implies for the business what is the basic declaration or the intention of a business. So to keep running all its processes, all its activities at least for the next year, which is a basic assumptions to prepare the financial statement considering the conceptual framework of the IFRS. So the going concern assumption is a fundamental assumption in accounting as well as auditing to prepare the financial statement. Under this, the going concern assumption is an entity is ordinarily viewed as a continuous business with a foreseeable future with neither the intention nor the necessity of liquidation, ceasing trading or seeking protection from the creditors pursuant to laws and regulations. So in simple, it is a business which carry out its business for a long run without any intention of liquidity. So what is the significance for the financial statements under going concern? Whether or not a company can be classified as a going concern affects how its financial statements are prepared. So first is, financial statements are usually prepared on the basis that the reporting entity is a going concern. So we have to assume that our company is a going concern company. So we will be having a long term existence, not the short term. IAS 1 presents of financial statement states that an entity should prepare its financial statement as a going concern basis unless the entity is being liquidated or has ceasing trading, or the directors have no realistic alternatives but to liquidate the entities or to cease trading. ಸೊ IAS 1 ಏನು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಂತ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನಾವು ಅದರ ಬೇಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಬುಕ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಕೌಂಟ್ಸು ಫಿನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ನ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಅನ್ಲೆಸ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸಾಕ್ಷನ್ನ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅಂದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಮುಂಚೆ, ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿಯ ಡಿರೆಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವಾಗ, ಕಂಪನಿಯನ್ನು ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರುವಾಗ ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಫಿನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ನ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋ ರೀತಿ ನಾವು ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Thirdly, where the assumption is made that the company will cease trading, the financial statements are prepared using the breakup basis. So when you are preparing that the books of accounts are going to be liquidated or going to be seized with the trading processes, you have to prepare the books in these categories. The assets has to be recorded at likely sales values. What is the present market value as a resale values or the realized value? Okay, because you have to sell the fixed assets of the company after depreciation. Whatever the value is remaining, you have to sell because your company is going for a liquidation process. Inventories and receivables are likely to require more provisions. So stocks ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಸೊ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ, ಆಫರ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಒಟ್ಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತೀರಾ ಸ್ಟಾಕ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ರಿಸೀವೇಬಲ್ಸ್ನ. ದೆನ್ ಅಡಿಷ್ನಲ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಮೇ ಅರೈಸಸ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಸ್ಟಾಫ್, ದ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಡೌನ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾ. ಸೊ ಅಡಿಷ್ನಲ್ ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡೇಷನ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ. ಸೊ ಫಾರ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಸಿಗ್ನಿಫಿಕೆನ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಇಟ್ generally says, you have to prepare your books of accounts or the financial statement as your company is the going concern. So going concern anta ನೀವು ಯಾವಾಗ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, whenever you are not going for liquidation or ceasing the trading. If you are doing that, so you have to prepare your books of account based on the assets has to be recorded on the sales values or likely sales values. Inventory receivable should consider more provisions, and additional liabilities is going to be raised. So you know when a company can be classified as a going concern. When you will be saying it is not a going concern, when you have problems. What are those problems or the indicators of a going concern problems were stated here. First one, net current liabilities indicates an inability to meet the debts. When the company's debts are more and the company feels that they can't meet their liabilities, is one of the indicator that a company is going to be liquidated. Secondly, borrowing facility not agreed or close to expiry of the current agreement. In simple, lack of access to cash may make it difficult, because a company will be having two types of types of assets. In that, current asset is a crucial one. You should have a liquid cash or liquid assets in your hand which convert into cash very easily or very fastly. Whenever you don't have a cash, the borrowing facility, or whenever you lack the movement of cash, it is so difficult to run the company, because working capital is one of the major component to run the business. So every day you need working capital to meet the expenses like petty cash expenses. So for all these things, you should have a moving current asset like cash or cash equivalent like check. Thirdly, defaulted loan agreements. Loans normally becomes repayable on default. Whenever you failed to repay the loan, you have to pay, or you have to whatever the assets you have given as a mortgage, that will be taken over by the bank itself. So it is also one of the indicator of a going concern problem. Unplanned sale of non-current asset we just discussed in the last chapter, that is a internal check. It is a crucial asset, and it will be having its impact on your balance sheet as well as financial position. If you are selling without any plan, it indicates the inability to generate the cash from the other means. You don't have any other means to generate the cash, so you are selling the non-current asset, and the non-current asset generates the income, will cause a decline in income and therefore the profits too, because you are selling an asset to make the cash. So whenever the asset value goes down, gradually or eventually the company's financial position goes down. Then missing tax payments results in fines and penalties. Normally a company has to pay its tax based on the dates which is specified by the tax departments. If you are not paying the tax without that particular due dates or limited date, it will be another problem which indicates it is not a going concern, because you have to pay your tax correctly and you have to assess the tax based on the income and expenses. So if you don't have the working capital to run your business, it is also one of the problem. Then failure to pay the staff payment of wages or salary to the staff indicates again the significant lack of working capital. Next, negative cash flow indicates the over trading. Your trading is your investments, it should be minimal and it should be based on a plan or strategy. If you are doing a over trading, it will show a negative cash flow. So that is also one of the indicator. Then inability to obtain credit from the suppliers. you can't raise any credit transaction from your suppliers, and if they says that you will not be paying on time based on those transactions, if they are not giving the raw materials without any credit, then again it is a lack of working capital to the company, and it is an inability to obtain the cash requirements whenever you need the raw materials or the supply of the goods for your production or services. Then major technology changes, inability to change the technology based on the nature and complexity of the problem. So whenever the tech is upgraded, you in your company also it should be upgraded for the profitability as well as productivity. So it will also results in loss of customers as well as loss of inventory management too. And finally, loss of key staff members also results in inability to trade, because an experienced salesman can sell the product so easily in front of a inexperienced one. So this is all the indicators of a going concern problem. Then now we will be learning who has the responsibility more and who has less. Sir, we are learning auditing, so the auditor has more responsibility? No, it is the responsibility of the management to curb those activities. So if a company is called as a going concern, then the company should move in an upward move, or upward ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು. ಅವರ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಸೇಲ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, at least they should maintain a constant line in the bar graph of their analysis or comparison. If not, it will be a director's responsibility. What is the director's responsibility? It is the responsibility to assess the company's ability and inability is the first and foremost objective of the director in going concern concept, because based on the going concern assumptions you will be preparing the financial statement, and its director or the management's responsibility to assess its ability as well as inability, and they must be aware of any material uncertainties which is affecting the assessment or not. For example, sometimes an external environment will have its impact on the company's performance, sometimes internal conflicts. So they have to analyze and they have to assess the risk which is involved in the company's betterment or growth and development, and they have to disclose those uncertainties in the financial statements that everyone will understand what is the problem. This is the director's responsibility to make them aware of the problems which are materially misstating the books of accounts or a financial statement. Thirdly, when the director are performing their assessment, they should take into consideration, or they have to consider these relevant factors, that is current and expected profitability. Every year you will be having budget, and based on the budget you will be doing the work. So there will be a standard, and based on the standard you will be performing. If you are meeting that standard, then that is right. If you are not, then there is a problem. You have to understand, as a director or a management, you must compare the current and the expected profitability of the firm. Then debt repayment, because it is one of the important indicator of a going concern problem. If you are paying your debt constantly and considerably, then the company is having a good working capital or good cash inflow to the company. So movement of the cash within and with outside of the company will be in a going concern way only. So it should not meet any problems. And finally, the sources of financing, one of the important aspect as well as objective feature and the nature of a director, he has to search the sources of financing for a long run, because the capital itself is going to be elaborated or extended for the expansion of the company. So if you are running for a long term, you should think about how to increase the sources of financing as well as to increase or to maintain the base on your capital too. So these are the three things and 3 points where the director will be having more and more responsibility. If they avoid, or if they know about the inability, ability and the assessment and all these concepts, then it is easy to make, or it is easy to mitigate the problems in the company. So now what is the auditor's responsibility? So the auditor's responsibility, IAA 570 says a going concern of an auditor need to consider the appropriateness of the management's use of the going concern assumption, whether they are running, whether they are preparing, whether they are maintaining the books of accounts and the business operations as per the going concern concept assumptions or not. That is the first thing that an auditor is going to check. Secondly, the auditor need to assess the risk that the company may not be a going concern. What is the risk status of that particular company? If the risk is high, if the risk is medium, if the risk is low, what is the treatment to mitigate the risk or reduce the risk? What are the actions taken to assess the risk? So that is also one of the component where an auditor having the responsibility to control over that the company should be a going concern, not be a going concern. So ಒಂದು ಕಂಪನಿ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಆಗೇ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಅದು ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಆಗದೇ ಇರೋ ರೀತಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಆಡಿಟರ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. Okay. Thirdly, the auditor will also need to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence that the company is a going concern. So auditor ಸುಮ್ನೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋ ಹಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. The company should give a proper evidence, because the next concept says written evidence or written representation for each and everything, and we are also talking about the same from the last 6 months. For each and every action, the auditor is going to ask you a document or an evidence. And finally, where there are going concern issues, the auditor need to ensure that the directors have made sufficient disclosure of such matters in the notes to the financial statement. So the auditor is going to check whether the directors or the management has taken necessary steps to come over with the practical problems which is associated with the going concern, and whether it is disclosed in the financial statements. Thank you.